Well, hi, and welcome to another session of Uncommon Knowledge for Seniors. Today we have Ginni Field. Ginni is a real estate educator that has been around a long time, and her list of accomplishments go on and on and on. But one of the things we're going to talk about today is the Senior Real Estate Designation, Seniors Real Estate Designation, and that is a National Association of Realtors designation to enhance the expertise of real estate brokers working with seniors. And Ginni, thank you so much for being here. This is an honor, and
It's my absolute pleasure to be with you, Jim, especially talking about this particular topic, which is, as you know, near and dear to my heart. I've been focused on this demographics for 20 some, 1998 is when I started really focusing on it because it made sense when I moved to California. And I think one of the reasons I love working with this particular kind of consumers because they need us in a little different way. And that just makes me feel good at the end of the day. So yeah, glad
you're
to be
right.
with you.
It's the 10,000 people turning 65 daily isn't going to stop for a while, and I think that in itself is a big thing. And
Mhm.
what this class has to offer and what this designation has to offer, I think is priceless, especially for the families and the people themselves. And I know you've seen so much of this, and
Mhm.
what kind of examples do you have of folks that have
Yes.
benefited from the
W-
designation?
Well, there's a few things. I always go to one particular client, and I pretty much talked about her nearly every time I speak to a group of either loan officers or real estate professionals. And it's her name is Lucy, and Lucy had reached out. She was referred to me, and was moving out of an area in Riverside County, California, moving down to Oceanside, California, and she was going to be buying her home with a reverse mortgage for purchase, and it worked out. She didn't have a good loan officer. That's a whole separate issue. But she had me with a bit of my knowledge and doing this because I still sell houses. It doesn't make any difference if I'm speaking all over the country twice a month. I'm still selling houses.
Mhm.
And so Lucy, I also happen to know that friends of mine were selling their home and moving. And I said, Lucy, I think I've got your house. So let's do this. And and we wrote the offer. I negotiated the deal. The loan officer was horrible. And she was again buying as with a reverse for purchase. She was selling the home she had. She was using the equity from that home and buying her new home with a reverse mortgage for purchase, meaning no mortgage payment. But she was getting so frustrated toward the end. She was getting so frustrated with the loan officer, and then the sellers were getting frustrated with her
Mhm.
because things were delayed. And she looked at me one day. We were very close to the end of the deal, closing the deal. That's it. I've had enough. I'm just going to get a regular mortgage. And I just looked at her. I said, Lucy, do you want a mortgage payment or not?
Yeah.
And she looked at me like, well, hadn't thought of it that way. I said, yeah, because if you buy with a regular mortgage, you're going to have a mortgage payment. And didn't you tell me that your goal was to be able to buy a home and not worry about money anymore? She said, yes. I said, then let's just get over this. I'll handle the sellers. We're going to be okay. Just take some big breaths. And we closed. And what was fun for me is I ran into her a few weeks ago. She's been in that house 5 years now. And we were out grocery shopping, and I think I ran into her, and I don't remember where it was. And she said, Ginny, she said, I still want to thank you because I love my home and I love not worrying about paying a mortgage payment. And I was able to, I remember shortly after she closed, she told me she and her sister were going to Europe for 2 weeks, which she would not have been able to do because of having to make a mortgage payment.
Yeah, and we hear that over and over
Hmm.
and over and over
Hmm.
again, and it's just like, gosh, it isn't what I thought it was, it's just, and when they realize that, and hopefully the people that have the SRES designation can speak to that
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and, and
The
really say that, and I think that's a big part of it as well.
well, the SRES designees, what I'm finding in my travels and my educational speaking opportunities is that the existing SRES designees are just not using the designation benefits as much as they should be.
Yeah, I couldn't.
And I literally, when I'm speaking, I either take them live to the website, or I have a deck that has quite a few areas that show what the benefits are for maintaining your and paying your dues. That's what pays for all the content they create for us. That shows all the stuff that's there. And I have people sitting in the room in front of me that have had their SRS. Oh, I didn't even know this existed. Well,
Yeah,
that's on you. It's
you're
actually
right.
in your manual. You can even get an updated copy of your student manual if you took SRES 5 years ago. You can get an updated copy through the website.
Well, that's that's the hope, is that they're using it, and but to your point, someone who hasn't even taken the step to get the designation is
Right.
it's like, man, there's so much in this class to benefit from, to just make life better for your client.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really.
Especially, and you mentioned it when we were chatting before we started. By 2030, all baby boomers will be over 65.
Oh yeah.
That's how many years away?
Yeah.
And dynamics are shifting and lives are changing, and I talk a lot about that when I uh, provide my presentation when I've been on the road to a bunch of states currently talking about this very subject. And I talk a lot about that because there's opportunity being missed for you to be able to help people.
Well, you're right. And everybody, I mean, what, 80-90% of the folks want to stay in their house. They want to age in place, and that they probably can't age in place in the house they're in. So they're going to have to downsize, or right size, or do something to get into that position. And I think that's huge.
One of the things that I also see, Jim, is not just the aging in place. My father wanted to do that. My father wanted to stay in his home, and we were lucky in that he was living in a 55 plus community anyway, so there really wasn't that much that needed to be done to the house,
Mhm.
which worked out. But there's also a group of this demographic, these homeowners that are afraid.
Oh yeah.
They don't know. Uh, they don't know that they have an option. They don't know that they can actually sell the home that they raised their families in, that might have steps and stuff and all those things, and have an option. They're afraid, and they don't understand that there are options. The other thing, Lucy is an example. Lucy lived in a really rough neighborhood that when she first bought the house was lovely, but it wasn't lovely anymore. And so she was like, she needed to get out. She needed to get away from that neighborhood. And that too can be done using selling your existing home and using the equity in your existing home to buy a new home using a reverse for purchase,
Yeah.
a HECM for purchase.
And not
I just did
having,
the same thing myself. I just closed on my own home using a HECM for purchase. I bought with a reverse mortgage.
yeah, there's the whole thing of not having to qualify for it, and all that. And but you're right, and how do you get over that fear for somebody? What it's
It
it's 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 rampant.
it's well, it's you know what it takes? It takes patience and time. And that's one of the things that I can share with you. I spend a lot of time talking about when I'm teaching SRES. Um, there are clients that I've sold their homes ultimately, and it might have been five visits before we actually took action
Mhm.
because of that fear. It requires empathy, and it requires patience, and it requires persistence, but with respect. And there was one time I was teaching an SRES up in the LA area, and and this one student, after day one, said to me at the end of the day, he said, "I can't do this business." I said, "Why?"
Yeah.
He said,
And
"I
that's
don't, I don't have that. I don't have that level of empathy." I
yeah.
said, "Then don't refer it to me. I'll take him."
And thank God they have that realization,
Yes,
because if
yes,
they get into it and they find out this, like, man, I'm not willing to do this,
right, right.
whether it's that or dealing with this stuff, or that whole thing. And every one of them is emotionally charged. Every one of them is just, to your point, they're afraid, or they're
Hmm.
they're concerned, or their family's concerned, and that's
Hmm.
another whole thing. But
Hmm.
if you don't anticipate that, and you don't know that it's coming, and you don't see it coming, then it's a recipe for disaster, I think.
There's no question about it. And we have to understand how it works, and we have to have relationships with good loan officers, and we need to go find these people. It's what I've been telling everybody across the country. Go find them.
Yeah.
Go find them and say, I'm here to help you. And again, it can't be about the money. At the end of the day, I get to help somebody and change a life. And oh, by the way, I get paid.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And it's not just the mortgage either. It's obviously it's the whole, the knowing about trust, knowing about the difference between trust and a will, what that is and what that looks like and what that means to them and how maybe helping them control the family. God
You
knows
have to
in
be
black
very
and white,
cautious as a real estate
no,
professional.
yeah, yeah,
You can't go down that road. You're not a trust attorney and you
yeah.
stay in your lane, but you have a team.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have the team, you don't have the resources, it's just not going to work. And that across the board is probably the biggest thing I think that an SRES brings to the table is
Mhm.
that experience, that background, and knowing the people you can trust and
Mhm.
really get answers from.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
absolutely true.
it's one thing after another. And what are you finding as far as realtors accepting this or being able to say, yeah, I want this. I really want to get this designation. This is something that really makes
Well,
sense to me. It's
there, there's the ready, fire, aim part. And I've been in Massachusetts, Tennessee, Virginia, someplace else. I don't even remember, Jim. Going to North Carolina, going back to Tennessee. Yeah, so I've been doing all of that. And what I'm finding in every one of the classes I'm teaching is how little knowledge the individual agent has about how all of this works. I'm always gobsmacked at the questions that come, the misinformation, the myths about reverses, and just functioning within this, I don't understand it, and I'm not going to try to understand it, versus I don't understand it, I want to understand it because there's probably someone out there in my world that I can help.
yeah.
And when you're working my oldest client was 103 years old. And it took 2 years from the moment she said, I want to sell my house to the moment we actually listed the house. Because she too it's a disconnection. There's an emotional charge with all of this. And we have to understand our job is to be patient and thoughtful and empathetic.
Mhm.
And 2 years before she was finally ready to sell. I had another client, she was 98. And it took her 5 appointments before she was able to get over the fear. Because there's a fear, as you know, there's a fear of making a bad decision that you can't unwind. And it takes those of us as real estate professionals, it takes us we must be responsible enough to be able to explain that it's going to be okay. Let's make sure you understand all of this. I'm here to help you. I'm not going to push you. I just want to make sure you have your questions answered.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
And here it is in black and white. This is what it
Mhm.
looks like. And I think that's the biggest thing is getting to that point where it's like, I don't care what you or not, I don't care what you think. It's like I know you might not understand this, but here it is in black and white. This is what it is, and this is what it looks like. Look at these numbers. A very
Mhm.
Dick and Jane kind of thing. And you have to do that to your point over and over and over again. Whether it's that or talking about
But you also, I think a lot of times you have to ask great questions, and that's one of the challenges is if you don't ask, what are you afraid of? How can you solve the problem?
yeah, or if you
Uh,
don't know the
and
question.
and I had another client, she was 90 something. She cried the whole time. And she cried when we listed, she cried when we sold, she cried when we closed, she cried when she left. And then 2 weeks afterwards, I got a note from her thanking me for how patient I was with her and that I was right and that she was so happy to see her grandchildren and her family all the time because her family was in either Northern Cal or might have been Washington. I don't remember. It's been quite a number of years ago. But she wrote me this most beautiful note thanking me for my patience and thanking me for being a great listener and thanking me for not pushing her, but always still within that, always still encouraging her, having her understand. didn't you say that this was why? And she said, yes. I said, well, just try to think about how wonderful it will be when you can call and see your granddaughters and grandchildren the same day you make a phone call. You don't have to fly anywhere, they're all going to be
Yeah.
right there. And ultimately, that's what she thanked me for, which, that's why I still do this business, Jim, because I know that it's not rocket science, but I am changing lives. And it's truly an honor. I think probably one of my favorite of all was a woman who was a Holocaust survivor, a Polish Holocaust survivor. And her son, wealthy son, was moving her closer to him in Santa Monica, California, and found a facility for her. Didn't ever tell her how much the cost really was because he could afford it, didn't matter. But he was angry with her because she was struggling with letting go of her things, the stuff. That
Yeah.
was my 103-year-old was also her 2 years was because of the stuff. And I had to teach him. And I taught him, I didn't say, I need you to pay attention to this. I just let him, he was standing next to me. And Yaja was her name, came out and handed me this beautiful little porcelain angel. And she said to me, Ginny, I think you'd probably love to have this. I said, Mark, Yaja, it would be a joy for me to have that in my home and remember you by it. Thank you so much for thinking of that. And grin on her face, she turned and walked away. And then I looked at him and he said, yep, you just taught me the lesson. I said, just say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you do with it after the fact doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They've earned that, right? Even though we're dealing with boomers over 65, we still have some silence left. Most of the my father's generation are gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but we still, and they have earned our respect, which is why I'm very clear. If you don't have empathy, and if you're all about the money, don't be involved with working with this demographic
Yeah.
because you're not right. You're not the right fit.
It's and it's the all-encompassing thing, it's the financing, it's the emotional stuff, it's the
Mhm.
house, it's the separation of
It's the stuff, the stuff.
and
I have in fact, back behind me somewhere in my office, I have a doily that my 103-year-old had. And she literally would unpack boxes that had been packed. And she kept asking me, Ginny, why doesn't anybody want my things?
yeah,
And one time I went to, and she said, I'm coming down, come see me. So I went to see her. She'd already moved into the facility in Pasadena. And she'd opened up a box and she was holding this little tiny doily, about that big. And she was just touching it with her fingers and thumb. And she looked at me, she says, why doesn't anybody want my things? I said, you know what? Marvel, I would love to have that doily. It would be a treasure of mine because it came from you. Again, a huge grin, and I have it. These things, these cherished pieces of lives I've been able to help, they all live in my house,
yeah.
Jim. They all live here.
Well, it's the authentic confirmation, I think,
Mhm.
of frankly what it is we do, and it's so important. I think um, one of the things I think I wanted to get to was being able to help people find this, wherever they are. I mean, like they could be listening to us from Wisconsin or
Mhm.
whatever. And I think um, they need to know that they can reach out to us and certainly yourself about finding that
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
person for the right thing in the right place in the right time in the right circumstances.
Well,
It's an art form in itself.
absolutely. And if they want to take the designation, I'm actually teaching it via Zoom coming up. I have no idea if it's going to fly or not. We don't have enough people signed up, but there's still time
Yeah,
because we all know everybody signs up at the 11th hour, right?
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, getting the designation at this time and being able to outreach and find these people and help them, especially if you're struggling in the industry right now, which a lot of people are.
yeah.
But yet, if you collaborate, find a great reverse loan officer, and then there's you, and you get your SRES designation, and then you collaborate. Now you have a magical thing, and in the process, you help somebody because that's really the core of who I am.
And you're
So
right.
yeah,
And there's so many folks I think that frankly, they haven't saved enough money, or they got beat up real well in 2008, or whatever, and medical issues and all that kind of stuff. And it just goes on and on and on. But being able to speak to that and being able
Mhm.
to say, look, here's what we've done before, here's what's available to you, and all that. Well, Ginny, I don't want to take a lot of your time because I know how busy you are, but if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way? Is it your email?
Yes, well, actually, either one. I will provide to you my contact information,
Yeah.
and you can reach out to me via email or text. My phone number is there. Sometimes hard for me to answer the phone, but I always respond. I actually answer the phone, Jim. What a concept.
What an anomaly. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
by
s-
all means.
thanks so much for this.
My
And
pleasure.
now I I get the feeling we'll be doing some more again
I
because
hope so.
there's so many things to talk about.
I
And
hope so. I would love to be in your neighborhood. I actually have some friends up that way. And I would love to be in your neighborhood. So we've got to figure that out too.
yeah,
Maybe do something locally to you. So that would be great. It would be a lot of fun.
we'll definitely do that. I'd like that a lot. And thank you so much for being here. All your information will be in the show notes so they can get to it. And,
My pleasure, Jim. Always a joy to see you.
thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Uncommon Knowledge for Seniors. Hope you found the information valuable and inspiring. If you have topics or circumstances you'd like us to address, please let us know. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and visit our website. We're at www.uncommonknowledgeforseniors.com for more resources and to schedule a confidential consultation. And until next time, I'm Jim Moran, reminding you to embrace your next chapter with confidence and clarity. Take care.